blonde hair, blue eyes, nice skin, so gorgeous. We thank the life gorgeous. Thank the life gorgeous. I love the life gorgeous. Its torso is so tight.
Well, hello, America. This is what you wanted. Welcome to the Life Gorgeous. My name is Craig Kilborn. This is where I share my magical life in hopes of improving your life. America likes us together. The focus groups like Kilborn and Ryen Russillo. ESPN, we never overlapped, but we know each other. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, my guy, I love his voice. Say hello to Ryen Russillo.
Thanks for having me, Craig.
How was that intro?
It was really good. There was a gap. Yeah, I was talking about you the other day, and I said he was only there 3 years. He knew. Yeah,
I had a good time. It was fun, but I couldn't believe it. I used to get to bed at 4 a.m. I did the 2 a.m. show, and if I did some jokes I liked, I'd wait until the re-airs at 6 a.m. and have some breakfast. It was unhealthy. So I want you to know that we are recording on the Wednesday after the Lakers beat the Warriors. This won't air until next Tuesday, so we don't know where that series will be. I also want to say that Ryen is a legend on the podcast, on The Ringer. He has his own podcast. And I do want to tease something. We're going to do the Life Gorgeous quiz later, and there'll be a shirtless question for you because we have kind of a running joke there. But I had an order here, but then I listened to something this morning, and I'm going to do a random high school basketball question for you, sir. Prior to games in high school, did you have some go-to songs to get psyched, to play basketball in high school, to dominate, to rebound, to average 10 or whatever you averaged? I averaged 26 as a senior. Were there some go-to psych songs for you, sir?
All right. Well, my high school career has been documented during the Hoosiers Rewatchable with Bill Simmons, where he really didn't enjoy me going through all the ups and downs and why it didn't work out. It's a long story. So I don't have the resume or the stats that maybe one would expect that talks about basketball as much as I do, but it wasn't because of ability. It was because of fit. I would like that on the record.
Wait, you said fit? F-I-T, you're fit? You mean they were playing you out of position or what?
No. I transferred and thought I was going to be awesome, and then they immediately didn't like me, and so then I was petty about it and didn't play the last 2 years I was there.
When you say they, the coaches or the teammates?
The coaches, yeah. Yeah, and it was funny because I was so upset about it that I practiced like crazy for the seniors versus staff basketball game. This is a winter event on Martha's Vineyard, so it was well attended. There weren't a lot of options for entertainment, and I took that game so seriously. I think I had 15 at the half, and people were coming up to me in the crowd, like out of the stands during warm-ups of the second half, being like, "Who are you? And why are you not on the team?"
Right.
And I pointed to the coaches. I was like, "Ask them." And then they left. And it was like my small ego victory because I felt like I'd been wronged. And because I was wronged, I wasn't going to make it right. Like I should have just gone back out my senior year and played basketball. But
right.
I was so upset about it. And my father was really upset. He was a big time player. And
you were pouting.
Yeah.
And how tall were you as a junior in high school?
Yeah, see, that's the other thing is I wasn't huge. My dad was 6'5", and everybody was wondering when it was going to happen for me. And I was just over 6'1" at that time.
Okay.
And I was skinny as could be. Like I might not even have been 170 by the time I was a freshman in college. Yeah, so I didn't have the girth I have now.
Right. And boy, is there some girth there. Ladies, down at Manhattan Beach, you can find Ryen shirtless having a Corona or Dos Equis at one of the many outdoor cafes this summer in Manhattan Beach. Not to give away where you live, because we're not, but it's a beautiful enclave south of Los Angeles. The Steve Nashes, the Mark Cubans, the Kevin Durants. Well, I'm sorry to hear
Nash
that.
Nash is down the street. But no, to answer the question, Jingling Baby, LL Cool J.
What was it called? What was the song?
Jingling Baby, LL Cool J, or Boomin' System was our layup line song. Boomin' System actually was better.
Okay. I loved layup lines so much. I thought it was the coolest thing. I loved our warm-ups. I listen at home to Barry White, Let the Music Play, and Benny Mardones, Into the Night. And and I averaged, I averaged 26. People say, what was your high? And it was only 34. My low was 17. I never really exploded, although I had 21 and a quarter once, but I didn't explode for a game to get 40. But I like some of those psych songs. And I didn't mean to bring up a traumatic experience for you with your high school. I mean, it sounds like, it sounds like you haven't recovered, probably never will. But no, I'm kidding. But I've seen the pictures of your jump shot and you get up on your shot, you kind of rise up like Anthony Edwards. You have a good form, You probably got better after high school, right?
Yeah, I got a little better because I took it so seriously during my 20s to make up for it. Clearly, I'm still not over it, but I feel like a fraud. And I just
Right.
want to make sure, what's worse than feeling like a fraud is being one. So I don't want to pretend that there's
Right.
any career that registers. Like the joke is I've never played in a game that anybody cared about other than when I played pickup hoops in Boston
Right.
during my 20s. Once I started filling it out, like I took it way more seriously. And I would imagine I wasn't a great hang.
I like to point this out to people. So at Montana State, I got a full ride. I was the best shooter and passer, 6'5". I played point guard, two guard, and small forward. Best games were at point guard. I could handle the ball and pass and shoot the lights out. I admit the defensive liability, so is D'Lo. Who cares? So is Steph Curry. But the guys
when it mattered, though, right?
What?
In the fourth, when it mattered, your rotations were always there.
Oh, I took charges and everything. But there were guys who played intramural who were 6'1", 6'2", post players, crafty. People don't remember Phil Hubbard. I don't want to name people, ball players that people don't know. But did you play intramural? Because there are the guys that were in intramural were good, but they couldn't, if they were on varsity, they'd have to be a point guard at 6'1" or 6'2", and they didn't have that, but they had some crafty low post McHale-like moves up and under. Were you good in intramural?
Yeah, we're pretty good. It was kind of hit or miss, though. Like the big thing was always like the A and B league stuff that would happen where half the teams in the Bs should have been in the As and then the other way around. So you'd be like, why are these guys in the As?
Mm-hmm.
And then some guys would win the B title and you'd be like, dude, didn't you get cut from the basketball team, like a D1 school, and you're in the Bs? So yeah, we were good. I was probably actually better at football and intramurals than I was basketball, oddly enough, which doesn't make any sense. But
when did you become, you said you were 170 in high school. When did you become the buff machine that you are now?
I had two different phases of filling out, both natural, for the record.
Oh, because that is a legitimate point,
Yeah.
I've heard people, well, I'm not going to get into it, but I've heard people question LeBron and what he may have done to his body in high school, but let's not get into that. So you're
heavy as the crown,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it, LeBron. Yeah.
So you just started filling out? Did you go protein shakes or did you just lift and eat a lot, or what'd you do?
I didn't lift a lot during college at all. I was too busy doing things that probably weren't healthy. And we didn't have a football team at Vermont, so none of us were tough. So it was great. Like all the stuff that you'd get your ass kicked at a normal university, like for us, we just were all about the same size, prep school. I didn't go to prep school, but you get the point. Like nobody's actually afraid of anybody else.
Right.
So, and then the hockey guys never really looked at us as much of a challenge, and we all became friends with them anyway. So you didn't have huge jack guys walking around UVM, and nobody ever had their shirt off anyway, because it was a week of summer and then immediately cold and then muddy for 2 weeks, and then everybody left.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a big outdoor hang place, despite how great Vermont is, during the summer months. So right after college, I was just kind of sick of it. I mean, not to get super deep on this, but I was sick of feeling like I was weak. I was sick of feeling like another human could dominate me. I didn't like where I was in the human domination rankings globally. So I started taking some Muay Thai, which I'm not that good at, but if you throw a kick every now and then, it's like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah.
And then I started lifting a lot, and it still wasn't really happening for me. It really wasn't. I was up to 205. It was, maybe if I got to 210, it'd be a really big deal. And then I don't know what happened when I turned like 26 to 28. I blew up, and then the strength was there.
Really?
Yeah. I used to like have a hard time with 225 on the bench, and then I would have to get a spot, right? And I'd have to ask for a spot. And, I was decent enough size then, but the strength wasn't really there. And I'll never forget it. Watertown, Mass. I was at the gym. I think I was like 27, maybe 28 at that point. And I asked the guy 225. He's like, how many do you think you're going to get? And, normally now I would never answer that. I would just say, I'm going to get as many as I get. Don't worry about it. And then back then I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4. And then I ripped off 11.
Whoa.
It was like, it was right out of a Disney movie. And then the guy looked at me. He's like, why would you do that? Like I was messing with him. I go, I've never done that before. Nothing ever close. And since that point, I'm like 230, 235 now. So yeah, I'm very happy.
I think I benched, I think I benched 240 in
Did you?
college. I think
with
that
your
was,
arms?
Yeah, I had a big chest. I have a big chest. It's kind of weird. My arms are slender as hell, but that's life. I'm like a 21-year-old Peter O'Toole without a shirt. I should mention to the listeners, Ryan, there's a running joke because he likes to have his shirt off, and it's Southern California, but he does have a very aesthetically pleasing, muscular body. I think that's safe to say. And I wanted to ask you, when you said you blew up at 26, 28, you started filling out, what is your weight now and what is your ideal weight?
Well, I'm like 230, 235, depending.
Right.
I think I've shrunk a little bit. I can still get away with 6'1", but I think I was a little heavy on the squats during COVID because I just had nothing to do. So I was like, I might as well squat again today. By the way, for the record, I love that we're 12 minutes in and this is the only topic we get on.
I know.
But
I don't talk to you enough, man. It's so much fun. And no, but it is, I do understand it. I mean, listen, it's freeing, if I was as buff as you, I would do the same thing, or maybe a little less gratuitous. But I am going to I'm building up because I have this great question I'm going to ask you at the very end, and that's about that shirt thing. So let me go to the NBA because you really cover it, and as you know, I love it, and I really am into it now because it's the playoffs. But let's have a little fun. And I asked you, I don't know if you did it, but do you have 3 most irritating players or annoying players or players you dislike? Did you do that? Because it's okay if you didn't, because I got guys I want to run by you. But do you have guys that you can't stand in the NBA? 3 guys?
I always have them at the ready because I watch so much that but I would rather you go first.
Okay.
You spent too much time. This podcast isn't about you enough yet. And that's not what the title is.
I have my other friends on and we answer fan questions, and it's a big focus on me. But because you're a podcasting, let's say legend or whatever, I like to pick your brain on all this stuff. Okay, so the obvious guy right now is Dillon Brooks. And I don't think we're allowed to use the word PUNK anymore. Although I think we should be able to bring it back for him. So we can say jerk or bonehead. Do you have an opinion on him? I know what the Grizz said the other day. It was a little over the top under any circumstances. Like they're really distancing themselves from him, not bringing him back. He's a Canadian and he's a jerk. Your thoughts on Dillon Brooks?
Well, I find the whole Dillon Brooks arc pretty amazing. Everybody dumped on this guy. And then there's one anonymous quote, which we're not sure the origin of, and now everybody likes him and feels bad for him. Like, that's impressive. Kendrick Perkins poured honey on a picture of him on a set of a television show. And then 48 hours later was like, I can't believe the Grizzlies would do this to this guy. Yeah. So, just to kind of like step back and look at everything that's happened. The quote itself, I'm a bit dubious of. Memphis is a very buttoned up front office. Okay, a very buttoned up front office. Now, maybe they said it. I'd like to know the tone. I'd like to know what else was packaged around it. I don't think an NBA front office would bring a player in, scold him, and say, hey, we're signing you we're not bringing you back under no circumstance are you ever going to play here, and then leak that to make them look unprofessional or like vindictive or make it more personal. So knowing, like, there's different front offices that maybe I'd go, yeah, I could see that. But the quote makes its way out, and I'm not sure. Maybe it's that, but I'm not sure what to believe of it all. Now, to
Right.
Brooks, to give you the answer, you can't be the wrestling heel. You can't ask for all the attention, then get the attention, and then decide you don't want it anymore. And then on top of everything else, miss every shot and not have any media availability. So sure, maybe the quote isn't great, but I'm not going to look at that quote and decide I all of a sudden like a guy that I couldn't stand during this Lakers series.
Right.
He's not going to, he's going to play in the NBA again, as bad as this is.
Right.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he shoots way too much. He's not a good shooter. But anyways, yeah, he's
you were offended by shot selection your whole life.
Yeah, I don't even have this down, but as a note, but maybe we should talk. I should confess something to you. Remind me to bring up Steph Curry, but not right now. I'm going to talk to you about Steph.
It's in my notes.
Okay, I'll just quickly tell you some of the guys that bother me. Some of them are the physical, the guys like the Dylan Brooks, but this one guy is not. Trae Young bothers me. Do I have to explain why? I will, but do you have an opinion on him?
For those that have listened to me, listening to you ask if I have opinion on Trae is pretty funny, just in the circle of my world. I have not been a fan, but I will defer to you.
Okay, and I should say, you got to realize something. My buddies work on Family Guy. He's the head writer, the executive producer, Alex Sulkin, and Goldie's on there, and they're brilliant. I've seen one episode of Family Guy. They asked me years ago to watch it. I said, this is brilliant. So many jokes, blah, 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 but I don't watch it. So as much as I like you, which I do, I don't hear all of your podcasts. So if you said to me, Greg, I've done 4 podcasts straight on Trae Young, I wouldn't know that. And I apologize because I'm busy over here doing whatever it is that I do.
Look, you can't have martinis with olives and blue cheese in a canyon and expect you to be breaking down a game 3 first round Eastern Conference playoff. So I get it.
So Trae Young, there's a term mosquito, a little annoying person, a little mosquito. But he did this. I saw him do this a lot, especially against the Wolves in some important games. Comes around a pick, dead stops and draws the foul. You know how a guy Damian Lillard does this, and I like Dame Dollar, but they do this. They draw the foul by stopping in mid dribble and stopping and jumping in, and I can't stand it. It's not basketball, but he bothers me. Does he bother you?
Yes, he bothers me. Okay. I think the refs somehow get together and like, let's make this guy a Hall of Famer.
Okay. I do see some of your tweets and your quotes, and you definitely, I think you really ripped D'Lo. We're going to get into him in a second, but I think, so when you're opinionated, are you doing it for entertainment value?
No, I'm doing it because I believe it. I could not do this job the way others do it. And I don't blame others for doing it the way they do it. But if I don't think that your opinion is based on how you feel, then don't ask me to respect your opinion. So when I'm anti a player, it usually is shot selection. It's how good of a teammate is he? And then certain times too, the manipulation of officials. Like, I just do not understand how officials can do this at the highest level and fall for stuff where, like to Trae Young's example, which I give him a lot of credit. He's been told he can't do it his whole life. He plays that way. As a former little dude, I admire his heart. I think he has a mental toughness that's beyond a lot of the players that he's out there with. However, there's other parts of his game that I don't like that have been well documented. But I would imagine, like you, I get incredibly frustrated, not even so much by him, but the way he would be officiated, that if you're driving parallel to the player and then lean into him and throw the ball up on the rim, like, why would you fall for that a second time? That's why I love Jeff Van Gundy. We had Van Gundy on. He goes, the problem with today's officiating is that they would screw you, and they would say they were going to screw you. They'd be like, if you get me on one of these and I give you the call and I go back and look and see that you sold it and I got it wrong, I'm not going to get you're not getting a call the rest of the game on the same stuff. And that's how it was policed. But people could not deal with that gray area when it comes to regulation.
Refereeing is a whole nother subject, and it is problematic. I was going to tell this story somewhere else, but I might.
Did you complain? Did you complain to refs? I could see you working officials.
One of my favorite player was Dr. J, but prior to that was Walt Frazier, who was the king of cool. I don't remember saying much. I don't remember saying much to referees.
Both way stripes.
Yeah, I just didn't do it. But quickly, I'll just tell you, years ago, it was 1999. I was doing the Late Late Show first year. This was the beginning of the Lakers winning 3 straight. This was Phil Jackson in town with Kobe and Shaq. And it was a tough series against Portland. They had Bonzi Wells and Arvidas and Rashid and Scottie Pippen. And I was at a party prior to this big game. I don't know if it was game 7 or what it was. It was in LA. And Paul Allen, the owner of the Blazers, was at this party. And I said, "Good luck tomorrow. I'll be pulling for you." And he said, "It's all about the refs. It depends on how they call the game." I was like, "Oh, that's a bummer. If that's what it's down to, that's a bummer. That's not fun." But it was like, when teams are evenly matched, sometimes it gets down to some horrendous calls, and it's just frustrating. But let me go back to some of these irritants. I'm not going to mention Draymond Green. He bothers me. He's loud. He's like Rashid. He doesn't just jaws at the refs. Here's one, because I can't remember. You grew up on the East Coast, so I think you said you're a Celtic fan. And when some of these guys, so Marcus Smart, I've always found irritating. You probably like him and you're going to defend him.
No, I'm not going to defend him. I too find it irritating. So,
are you a Celtic fan?
Yeah, I am. I am now. I'd say it's somewhat muted because of the profession. You get it. We have to be professional. The audience has to build that trust with you. I started actually as a Sixers fan because it was like a lot of kids, the Dr. J thing. But then I loved Moses. Moses.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was that 82-83 team, which I still feel like historically is not mentioned on the list of the great all-time teams in NBA history. The problem for them is that they just won that one after losing the finals. And then you add Barkley to it, who, as he knows, is my favorite athlete of all time, which I think I've shared with you in the past. So I have like a weird origin. Is during that Bird, McHale, Parrish, Ainge, Dennis Johnson thing. I hated that team. I loved the Sixers. And then, between the 86 draft, trading Moses Malone, not taking Brad Daugherty, Hot Rod Williams, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't working out for me. So I decided I was sort of in this malaise. And then I was living in Boston. I was like, all right, enough of this. They had the number 1 pick. They were going to get Duncan. I was like, all right, I'm back in. So right. I just want to share my origin story.
Yeah.
Roy Hinson was actually the 86 transaction. Then Hot Rod was later on with the Cavaliers.
Roy Hinson. The Sixers also drafted in the second round out of Syracuse, Leo Rautins, who played his freshman year at the University of Minnesota, one of the greatest Canadian players of all time. He could pass the ball. He didn't make it in the NBA. Yeah, I was a Sixer fan, but then it was only because of the doc. And I just remember Moses said anyone can shoot a jump shot. He just liked grabbing rebounds. Anybody can shoot a jump shot. It's about grabbing rebounds. So Marcus Smart bothers me. And then there's one more guy who I added this morning because I haven't seen him enough, but he seems like he has a bit of an attitude and he's irritating. From last night, actually, Jordan Poole. Do you have an opinion on Jordan Poole?
Liked him a lot better last year when he was making shots. I don't know what's going on with him because when he makes mistakes, they are epic mistakes. They're not just a turnover. It's like, what's this button for mistakes?
Right.
They're just tragic. He can't defend. He's still an incredible driver. You see him get cooking last night, but then you knew that heat check was coming.
Oh.
And I didn't love the shot. There's still some time left on the shot clock.
I know. It's like, and Van Gundy he could have been 5 feet in. No one was guarding him. You could have moved in a little bit. These guys take these bombs. It just makes me nauseous. Which brings us now, we're off of the irritating players.
Good.
And you did say something about you can't, because of your job, you can't really talk about who you're rooting for. Cause I was going to ask you, who should I root for in the Lakers Warriors series? I was going to ask you that. And I ended up after the trade deadline. I've always liked LeBron. I know how good Anthony Davis is. I had a problem with the Kobe Shaq Lakers, as people probably know. But I thought the Lakers were prior to the playoffs. I said, wow, these guys might, along with Phoenix, because I have a lot of respect for Durant. I said, these guys could be the team to beat because their defense. So I am rooting for the Lakers. I don't even have to ask you. I'm rooting for the Lakers. And I guess I want to ask you first, how good is Austin Reeves? What are your thoughts on Austin Reeves?
Complete ball player. I love once we realized that, hey, white guy shooter, which I'm sure you felt on the playgrounds through all your travels. And it's like, no, you're diminishing my other tools. I don't need that. And once you saw that Reeves was more than a shooter, could put it on the floor a little bit, could pass, is tough as hell, was probably one of their most consistent defenders as far as like a guy that attempted to try every single night.
Yep.
I think he flops a little bit too much. Don't love him falling down on some of the screens. He tried to do it last night to get Steph's third foul. I had to post that video. Didn't appreciate it. That I felt it was disrespectful to the game. But other than that, I'm happy for anyone that has that kind of story that's overlooked, and he's going to cash in big time this offseason. So Austin Reeves is a real, 10-year rotation player in the NBA.
Yeah, he's stronger than people realize. He's a pretty good athlete. He's strong. He's tough as nails. He's a good defender. And then I heard, I think it was Jeff Van Gundy in one of the games against Memphis say, hey, he played point guard in college. Once you hear that, once you know he's can pass the ball, nice little lob to LeBron last night. Yeah, I enjoy watching him play. I'm happy for him. And the Lakers, they don't have Malik Beasley in the rotation now, which is interesting. Not that I care about him. He's just a 3-point specialist. But the game last night, so I think here's my problem. And I'll just tell you, I always root for underdogs. So when everyone thought the Bulls were the greatest team in the 90s, I said the teams in the 80s, the Sixers, the Celtics, and Lakers were all better than the Bulls. That's what I said. I don't know if it's true. But I had a problem with the Warriors dynasty because of so many three-pointers, which makes me nauseous. And I don't like I have a problem with guys. Steph's the greatest shooter of all time, but just still some of the bombs. It's like, look at me, look what I just did. I'm not supposed to do this. That's 35 feet, America. I'm not supposed, look at me. So it bothers me how precious, this is my issue with Steph. I know he's great. Turns the ball over. Something a little too precious about him. And I've always had an issue, but I know he's the greatest shooter of all time. So I guess let me see if I can form a question for you. Do the Warriors bother you with their 3-point shooting? And what are your thoughts as far as Steph Curry? Go ahead.
I love Steph Curry. I can't believe you're saying this. This is like Clapton sitting down in an interview saying he thinks guitar solos are overrated.
Do you think
you don't like shooting? You don't like Steph's changing the game? You don't like a Steph 30-footer, which goes in enough to justify it as opposed to some of the other players? This is shocking news.
Yeah, this is where I could say I need to recuse myself. I'm a little inconsistent on this. I'm not sure why I know he's slender, he's cutesy, he's great, but I think I read something the other day. I guess I don't take him as seriously as I'm supposed to, and that this is my own problem, and I'm not sure what it is. Someone said the other day after he scored 50 in Game 7, he is the greatest point guard of all time over Magic Johnson. I'm thinking, he's not. He's a shooting guard, point guard. He's not the passer that Magic is. I don't know where I rank him, but I accept to admit that he's the greatest shooter of all time. And it's special. I'm sorry, but I just saw him get swatted last night. I saw, he turns the ball over. He's loose with the ball. Last year in the finals at Boston, he had 3 turnovers in a row at Boston. It was hilarious. But okay, so you're saying you think he's just obviously a top 10 player of all time, right? Is that what you're saying?
When he's done, I think he'll land in the top 10. The point guard thing is silly. I agree with you on that. I mean, it's not, we just don't really have those people anymore. So if Magic wanted to score more, as we saw in the finals when he was a rookie and played center, he could have scored more, but that wasn't his goal.
Right.
And his approach to the game clearly worked. Yes, it was a talented team, but, Magic, to make 9 finals in 12 years, that's not given enough historical credit. It's overlooked, because he doesn't have the 6 that Jordan has, but to get to the finals 9 of those 12 years in his prime, and obviously it was cut short, who knows what it would have ended up doing. But to say Steph's the better point guard, that doesn't make any sense because the point guard position is an endangered species anyway. But the things I think you're overlooking with Steph is, you like the underdogs. Here's somebody who physically we didn't know if he could hold up. That wasn't the case. Very early on in his career in the NBA, even though I had my doubts of him coming out of Davidson, just because normally, I remember Van Pelt once saying this great line where he said the road to the NBA is littered with these college scorers that are just small. And then you end up looking up in Wikipedia 5 years later and you're like, oh, that guy's in Turkey scoring 30 a game. And what we didn't realize with Steph is that his passing is actually incredible. Not to the level of Magic.
Right.
He's one of the smartest players instinctively on like what to do, where to move. Mark Jackson had him as an off guard. He was closing with Jarrett Jackson running the game and would have Steph Curry in the corner, which, is still a little bit more of an old school thing. The NBA wasn't what it is today. So I can understand some of the resistance of just giving him the ball and handing him the keys as a young player. But there were all of these things very early on where I'm like, he's already between handle, his vision, his instincts, and certainly his shooting, he was already one of the best players in the league. So I love that story. And despite them loading up with KD in 16 and 17, in an era of players deciding very early on who they want to play with, or more importantly, at times, who they don't want to play with on their own teams, that doesn't happen with Steph. There are very few stars, maybe none, that would have deferred to Kevin Durant for the greater good of the team. Now, granted, it was going to help Steph here too. And it's not just that Steph stayed with Golden State, but I think he's the best teammate of his era because you always know there's not the incessant drama that you have with so many other teams because their players thinking about what's next for them. And you have to be selfish a little bit to be successful, but as an organization, hey, our guy, the face of our organization, we don't deal with all the other nonsense so many of the teams in today's NBA deal with. And that's all because of him.
I relate to Steph because I could shoot the lights out, wasn't strong on D. I was a better passer. When I say that,
were you a good teammate in Bristol?
And you mean in basketball or in the newsroom?
Just in the newsroom. Were you a good teammate?
I tried to. I was nice to everybody. I remember a producer said, "You don't complain. You're just quiet." And then of course
you're not a complainer.
And then I got out of there. Quietly got out of there. No, I like Steph. It's just that everything he does. I'm joking. Everything he does, I can do. I can shoot the lights out. I can move. I can pass. I can't do what Anthony Edwards does. I can't, but I can do what Steph does. So I just don't. But his shot goes in a little more than mine does. Okay, so these are jokes. So I want to quickly. Are you rooting? Or you can't say who you're rooting for?
No.
In the series,
we need to clean that up. I'm rooting for Golden State because I'm rooting for Steph to continue to build on this absurd resume to see where it all lands.
Okay.
It's not because of a Boston-LA thing. This series, and by the time this comes out, who knows? The Anthony Davis part of it is a huge problem for Golden State. I'm not a big whistle guy, and the free throw disparity is to be expected with the way these two teams played. I think Golden State has to be a little bit more ready for that. The rest of the series, there's probably going to be a game where they shoot it so much better than the Lakers do, they pull it out. But the Anthony Davis part of it is a real problem. And he's been engaged and aggressive in a way in these playoffs, in a way that every Lakers fan would hope to see him. But since he came back from the last injury, he's been one of the best players in the league, despite maybe not some of the great offensive nights. So, this is the reason why we all freaked out about Anthony Davis and where he's going to go. It's not like he's 35 years old here. So when he's right, healthy, and engaged, the Lakers are a completely different team.
Yeah, I think I always think about that Spurs team that beat Miami with Dwayne Wade and LeBron, the passing, where obviously they had Tim Duncan, but I thought they had a balance. I like a balance of in the half court of layups and 3-pointers. They had Danny Green, they'd kick it out, Ginobili, but I wish the Warriors had more of an inside presence. It would be a better balance because they're just shooting a bunch of threes right now, and that's not that satisfying for me. And it is satisfying. I do like big men. I do like big men that are causing problems. And of course, there's this sidebar of the enigmatic mercurial D'Lo, who you probably can't stand. I'm pleased that the Wolves traded him. Now I can just watch him from afar and enjoy some of the drives to the hoop, left-handed, missed 2 easy ones last night, but he played well. Are you happy for D'Lo, or is he driving you up the wall?
I'm not a D'Lo guy, and I think he is.
He's streaky as hell. But is there something about him what is it why you say you're not a D'Lo guy? I know you've criticized him like crazy, right?
Yeah, I went really hard after one episode.
That's what I thought.
It was pretty bad. So, it's funny because at the beginning of the Memphis series, it's like, hey, this guy's right. Then he has like 38 in the elimination game. But the thing is I'm not surprised seeing him have a big scoring night in a playoff game.
Right.
Okay. I actually think his casualness, like he plays the game when it's working, it's like, man, what great pace and feel he has. And when it isn't, it's like, this guy's way too casual. Like, what are you doing?
Yep.
And whether it's missing defensive rotations, not fighting over screens, not getting back in transition, throwing passes to who knows, like the third jumper where you're like, what is happening there? But I would never say that he's so talented, he's actually dangerous because of his approach. Minnesota couldn't get him out of there quick enough. So that should tell you something. And with the Lakers, he knows he can't get away with some of the stuff, knowing that LeBron and AD, there's still decisions that he'll make in a playoff game, Craig, where I'm surprised. I'm like, man, I'm surprised he did that with LeBron. Like, didn't swing the ball back to him and kind of went and did his own thing. But he has to know he's a little bit more accountable because of who his teammates are this time around. I think he was a little too influential, maybe, with a less proven Minnesota team. And, I think they wanted to trade him this summer. They ended up trading him before the deadline. So it's not a question of talent with him. It's just knowing that those games are coming where those losing plays are baked in that don't show up in the box score. And I saw a ton of him throughout his time in Minnesota. And as you did as well, because you have a vision.
He's not a long-term guy. I don't know how he'll fit in long-term with the Lakers, but it's just he's fortunate. I mean, he could maybe win a championship this year. I don't know how good. I'm actually a little disappointed in LeBron right now. He's just not sharp, but we'll see what he does.
I think he's pacing himself. His shooting's been off.
Whoa.
I liked what I saw from him in the Memphis series overall, though, knowing when to pick it up when nobody else really had it going. So he picks his spots. He coasted early last night. But his life at the rim is going to be a lot easier in this series. So you're right on the shooting part, but there's a lot more to LeBron's run here a few games in that I've liked. Maybe I'm being too kind.
I don't know what's going to happen in this series when this airs. It'll who knows where it'll be at. I do think the Lakers can look bad. They can look bad. I've seen them look bad. And, but I also think their defense is great. And, they just have these guys are streaky. Dennis Schroeder and D'Lo and everything. I wanted to ask you, the Denver Nuggets, so they are the number 1 seed. I watched them against the Wolves. At early on, I was like, okay, they're simply a better team. Jamal Murray played really well. But how good do you think Denver is? Because I've
had a hard time. Yeah, look, I think they're really good, but when you're 19-22 on the road, you're like, wait, like great teams don't have a below 500 record on the road. Like, what's going on? I mean, they're dominant at home. I don't know if the altitude. When you're in Aspen, do you feel it hits you immediately, or is it kind of day 3 it hits you in Aspen?
Doesn't really hit me. I've never been to Aspen, but I'm going to answer like I have. It doesn't really hit me. But when I get back to LA, I take a lot of naps. I'll put it to you that way. Now, whenever I come back from a road trip, I went to Minnesota for games 3 and 4, and I come home and then I'm just taking a lot of naps right here in the den, right here.
Do you sit up when you nap like Churchill?
No, I wish I could do that.
The original big 3?
What's that? Churchill,
Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin.
Oh yeah. I've seen pictures. Larry Pistol and Henry Finkel. No. I couldn't think of a third.
Can I ask you an ant question?
Yes.
I can't believe we haven't talked about him yet.
Oh, I haven't.
Go ahead. Where are you willing to project his final ranking on your all-time favorite human beings?
Well, we're fortunate to have him. The big thing with him this year was taking the leap, and he did take the leap. I think you're also talking about personality. What a personality. I mean, just a real good guy, really supportive of, he calls him Finchy. Finchy, we trust Finchy. And, Cat, no one can guard Cat. I wish I could shoot like Cat. I wish I could shoot like Cat. So he's special. And since we're talking about it, let's go full Wolves. I want to make a few comments and tell you what I'm thinking. So I don't know if this is a mistake. So the Wolves came home and they lost game 3 at home. We're down 2-0, then we lose game 3. And Denver, it was good defense. They shot the lights out. 58% from the floor. Then we win game 4, and then in game 5 at Denver, we lose it. There were a couple rebounds that Rudy should have gotten, and he didn't, and we lose a really close game. And Cat went off in the second half, and Ant was great, and all the guys, Conley and Rudy was dunking in the fourth. And I said, maybe I shouldn't read that much into that game 5, one game, but I said, okay, we're right there. We don't have Jaden McDaniels. We're not healthy. We don't have Nas. Slow-mo is out. And but I just said, I just want to see this team healthy. And this is my message, because I have access to the guys, the Wolves, and I just said, we need to add a dead-eye pure shooter off the bench. I don't know who that guy is, because we had a couple guys, Jalen Noel, who was awful this year, and Jordan McLaughlin, who was awful, and they were good 2 years ago, but they're awful. And I have not a lot of patience, but I like where the Wolves are at. I'm gonna ask you about that. Let me ask you, what do you think of the Wolves? And then I have another Anthony Edwards thing I want to tell you. What do you think of the Wolves? I know you hate Rudy, but that's fine. But what do you think of the Wolves?
I think they're screwed.
Okay, because of Rudy, right?
Rudy is expensive. He's going to get older. He doesn't fit in today's game. He's in Ant's way on drives, and you brought him in for defensive rebounding, and that didn't really improve. You brought him in to help the defense, to kind of bring somebody to help Cat, because Cat wasn't much of a deterrent at the rim. And so knowing the assets that you used on it too, like, we didn't like to trade then, and now it looks even worse because you trade Rudy straight up for Walker Kessler. And he was just one small sliver of what's going out to Utah in this deal. And I'm not a huge fan of Cat. I know he's super talented. I don't know if he's a winning player. I kind of felt like he was a taller D'Angelo Russell. So I feel like all of these things are going to happen as they try to figure it out with a lack of options as Ant gets better and better and better. So I feel like part one of the Ant story is going to be the adversity of getting through whatever this roster is, because it's not an easy fix.
Okay, so couple things. Let me just unpack everything you just said. We're going to go long. Alert the affiliates. We're going long. But Cat needed
no
help.
hard outs.
Cat needed help on the defensive end. Rudy, I don't like Rudy's contract. I don't like the compensation. He does improve the team defense. Our team defense was good. Of course, we had guys like Jaden McDaniels. Ant plays defense. But I will agree with you. I'm worried about Rudy. Each year, is he going to decline? That concerns me. But he doesn't bother me nearly as much as he bothers other people. In the fourth quarter, second half, they were lobbing it to him for dunks, easy baskets. I know he's irritating because he's not polished offensively, but we needed to get some big men to help Cat. Now, as far as Cat, I have friends in Minnesota, some reporters. And, do you trade Cat? I say absolutely not. And here's my problem. This is where I criticize myself. I'm still basing it on game 5 at Denver, because he had a bad first half. Then he got going. I said, look at him. No one can guard him. They can't. The big man, Jokic can't guard him because he used to eat up Jokic a few years ago. Now Jokic doesn't guard him. So it was Aaron Gordon. And then he just kept driving on Gordon and kept driving and getting fouled. Now, I'm not saying don't trade Cat in a year, but right now I want to see what we have with this team next year when we're healthy. I want to see what we have, because I don't think there's a juggernaut out there. I don't think there's a team out there. We can play with Denver, I think, when we're healthy, but we have to add a dead-eye shooter. Did you see what KP3 did the other night? Caldwell Pope hit like 2 or 3 threes against Phoenix late. You just need these guys that can shoot the lights out. Okay, so I disagree with you on Cat, but I do know why he bothers people. He's quirky. You might be right. You might be right. And others might be right. Like, he's not a winning player. He does silly ass fouls.
The fouling is insane. Like, some of the fouls that he has late where it's like you can't. Yeah, but it happened during this playoff series. And look, Denver's much better than them. Okay, so for them to lose to them is not a bad thing. I think the best part was that Ant going through some of those down stretches. We were like, what's going on? It was kind of lingering a bit. The start of the series, the Lakers playing game, we were like, what?
Oh, he had a horrible game, and Cat carried him until the fourth, and then our offense shut down.
Right, but I think Ant, as far as like my expectations for Anthony Edwards are so high that I'm still excited about it. But we're also incredibly unfair about some of these players. Like, oh, he had a bad game in the playing tournament against Lakers. Well, the guy I saw against Denver, the guy I saw fighting for the Timberwolves' lives there, that baseline turnaround fadeaway, that's just not a long list of
how about his left-handed hook at Denver? His left-handed hook off the glass at the end. I was like, everyone was like, where did that come from?
No, he's incredible, and I really do think he has a chance to maybe be the best player in the league. I'm not saying that's going to happen. So that's how special he could be.
Yeah. So the Wolves, some of the guys there, I'm not going to say who. I know these people, but top 10. I think someone might have said top. Someone asked me, do you think he could be top 5 in the league? And I said maybe. I don't know, but it's just the fact that you're there. He's special. We got it right. Let's build around him. We love Mike Conley. He has a few years left. The Rudy Cat thing throws everybody off but me. And Walker Kessler's great. I don't think he's a physical specimen. I think he could get lost in certain games, but he's playing very well. I just think I would do this. This probably doesn't make sense. I would see how it goes next year, add a few people off the bench, and then you can try to trade Rudy, or you could try to trade Cat. I don't know what you'd get for Rudy in a year, but who knows? But let me say one other thing about Ant. I'm watching the series and I go, oh, gosh, Ant's, he's so, just the way he gets to the rim. And I say to myself, because, he even says, he goes, I wish I could shoot like Cat or something. I wish he was a better 3-point shooter, right? That's what I say to myself. And I say, wait, Craig, D Wade, LeBron, Kobe, look it up. His field goal percentage from 3 for careers, like 35.2, it's higher than, D Wade didn't shoot a lot of threes, but his 3-point shooting isn't that bad. I want it to be better. I want it up to 37. He shot 36.9, I think, for the regular season, but he shoots better than D Wade and LeBron and Kobe on 3-pointers. That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. D Wade, for as dominant as he was, because that prime Dwayne Wade stretch was really nasty. I mean, there's just nothing you can really do with the guy, but he wasn't a shooter, which makes the other part of his game that much more impressive. Edwards, at this stage of his career, a year in college, especially if you watch the guy at Georgia, where he didn't make any shots from the outside. I think he was 29%, maybe it was lower than that.
Yeah.
And he still took a lot. His decision making, you knew what you were getting physically, but I'm like, man, there's just a lot. But that rest of that team wasn't very good. And it spoke to kind of his own intelligence of like, I need to push this. Like, there's certain college players, when I see him coming out, I'll be like, does this guy have the wrong mentality, or did he actually understand? Like, Patrick Mahomes is a good example. I watched him at Texas Tech. I'm surprised he's the best quarterback in the NFL. I'm even more surprised he might end up being the greatest quarterback in the history of this game, but that's the path that he's on. But when I watched him at Tech, I couldn't believe some of the decisions that he would make, because he'd be throwing it all over the place. And then I talked to somebody that asked him about it, because Mahomes is a pretty smart guy. And he goes, look, we had no defense, and they had none that final year he was there. I mean, it was a joke. He goes, I knew that we had to score like 50 points. So every single possession, I was willing to increase the risk beyond what I would normally do, knowing that like if I was reluctant to fit it into a tight window, take deep shots all the time, which led to mistakes. But if I didn't do that, I knew we had no chance of winning. And I was like, that's really smart. And that now matches the guy that I saw at Tech, who I'm like, he's maybe he makes a mistake every now and then, but still, I mean, that's kind of the Edwards thing. Like, I go back and I was looking at my scouting report that I wrote on him coming out of Georgia, and I was like, all the physical stuff still checks off. I wasn't sure about his decision making. And now any concerns I had about him, shot selection, all that kind of stuff, it's not there. I think he has a chance to be really, really special.
Yeah, he sometimes this year he hits the mid-range when he's covered, and the announcers, Michael Grady and Jim Peterson, I had them both on the podcast. They can't help themselves but say Jordan-esque when he hits certain mid-range shots where he's covered, and they quickly say, "We're not saying he's Jordan. We're just saying that's Jordan-like right there." But his shot selection is getting better. It still is. He sometimes settles for bad 3-pointers. I'll tell you something funny. I said to Coach Finch, we call him Finchy. I was talking to him, and I said, no one talks about his ball handling. I just think he really can yo-yo and dribble the ball and just get his shot off. And Finchy's like, yeah, but sometimes he moves and he forgets the ball and he leaves it behind. And then I've been watching, and it's like, oh yeah, he'll drive explosively, and the ball will he'll lose the ball sometimes. Very bizarre. It's just a bizarre thing. But he can really go between the legs and get his rhythm on threes and get his shot off and in traffic. So everyone is ecstatic about Anthony Edwards, and he doesn't bother anybody because of his great personality. So we love him. We'll see what they do with Rudy and Kat, but I like where we're at. I apologize. I like Mike Conley. I like Slow-Mo, Jaden McDaniels. There's no dominant NBA team, so I think we're right there. Maybe I'm being too optimistic. Okay. One weird NBA. You have a comment or not? You don't have a comment. I see your hand up. You don't have anything.
No, I'm good. The floor is yours.
Okay. I want to know how you handle this in your basketball mind. Drew Holiday for the Bucks a couple years ago stops Devin Booker, strips him in the finals. It's pretty amazing. Overpowers him. I really respect his defense. This year, Jimmy Butler messes with Drew Holiday. How do you handle that? How do you wrap your head around the domination of Drew Holiday in certain moments with Devin Booker and then Jimmy Butler doing his thing? Do you say, don't panic, don't overreact? It's just Jimmy did his thing. Drew's already won his championship. Or what do you say?
Yeah, like it's always kind of this exercise that I'll be like, just because something happened doesn't mean it's actually something.
Right. Good. And I like that.
If you looked at the Athletic player poll and they asked 104 players in this anonymous poll, like who's the best defensive player in the league, he won clearly with 15% of the vote, which actually was dramatically, I think it was double the number 2 player that was picked. You can imagine a bunch of players are going to pick a bunch of different people. One player voted for Alpi Şengün to build his franchise around starting today. So you get a little taste of everything.
All right.
So Drew Holiday is a terrific defensive player. I almost voted him Defensive Player of the Year this year. I've seen him both play guys off the ball. Booker in a Phoenix regular season game where he was incredible. Booker couldn't really shake him. Granted, maybe Monty Williams could have done more to say the priority is getting him off of our guy. I think that actually can happen in a basketball game. And then I see him destroy high pick and rolls, where he's like, I'm actually not giving into the switch. The Butler thing, it's disappointing. It's perhaps at times surprising. I do think there were some screens mixed in there as well to get Butler free. The turnaround where Butler's staring him down, that's an incredible shot.
Right.
It's just an incredible shot. He gets up over, he has the size, and Drew can body him and do whatever, but he's not going to get it at the contest.
Right.
And what Jimmy Butler did in that series, he should be barking at everybody. But I will not go into next year wondering if Drew Holiday's defense is a concern. That will never happen.
Good.
His offense would be more of a concern because it's funny. You get this. Like when you were in Bristol, and if there was a dip in the ratings, it's you, it's Dan, it's Keith, right? Like
Ravage. It's Ravage.
Yeah, it's Ravage. Right.
Big time Ravage.
Right. And I don't think anybody was going for Eisen's head back then. All right. At that time, later on, yes. But at that time, they're like, we don't need to meet with Eisen. We got to talk to Craig. We got to talk to Dan. And so Drew, because whenever we talk about the best players in the league, we talk about the best point guards, he never gets brought up.
Right.
That he can have an awful series like he did against Miami. And you don't go into next year wondering, because the NBA is this odd product that it's a carousel of kind of negativity, of where a topic is initiated and such. You'd be like, hey, are we criticizing this guy enough? And then the other guy on the desk goes, I don't think we are. Like, let's start criticizing him more and immediately.
Right.
And so I am guilty of it, no question, but I try not to have my charts, go up and down like cryptocurrency here. I try to, we're steady. We're S&Ping it on all players.
I like that. I like that because that's very wise. Because I know it's not. I already know how good Drew Holiday is. I don't care what Jimmy Butler does. I mean, it was amazing, but
It's awesome.
but it doesn't mean And so I like what you said. Is there something here? No, there's not something here. That's good.
No, it's better. It was a better quote. Just if you want me to correct it.
Yeah, it was better. What did you say?
Right.
Is there something there? There's nothing there.
No. It was this. Is when something happens, is it actually something?
Oh, that was it.
You're killing it.
I'm sorry. Oh my God, that's classic. Okay,
A man walks into the forest, and you said, what was it you said about the forest? A tree presents itself. That's
I don't
good,
remember.
Ryan.
Quickly, I'm going to do one NFL note here. I want to see your reaction because I love that you guys are so opinionated. And I think
I love that you aren't.
No, I just disagree with you. But I even though this guy has a little flaky or does the darkness tour or whatever the hell he does, so I like Aaron Rodgers. I like watching him flick his wrist on the move. I agree with Tom Brady. He's more talented than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Tom Brady says Aaron Rodgers is more talented than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
That's not even a debate.
Correct.
That's not a debate. Right.
Yes.
Rodgers is maybe the most talented thrower of the football I've ever seen.
Yes.
Maybe it's he or Mahomes. All right. There you go.
Dan Marino. So anyway.
Well said.
I love his quick release. I just love that. Jeff George. Okay. So Aaron Rodgers, are you excited to see him with the Jets? Because I am.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait. Look, I mean, I would say I've probably cooled on my affinity for him because I think there's just a lot of endless drama, and I don't really think the Packers did him all that wrong. And then this last year was frustrating. They moved on from the coach. It's actually a talented roster. They had another chance to win a home playoff game to go to the Super Bowl. So I always felt like you're complaining like a guy is going 5-11 every year, and I don't really think that's the case. However, he got his way. He goes to a bigger market. He's in New York. He's super talented. Quarterback longevity is a real thing, and I expect him to play really well, and he's got awesome weapons, so I can't wait for it. I do wonder, and you understand this, he big-timed me at a Hollywood party one night.
Ooh.
And I don't know how you deal with that. Athletes that you have to talk about knowing that they're going to be like, I know we don't swear on this podcast, so I'm not going to swear here, but it was a real bleep this guy moment when I was pretty harmless, and it was a very small group, and I was with a heavy hitter crew of people, and we kind of sidled near each other. And I said, hey, good to see you again. I've had him on my show twice. And he said, I don't know who you are.
Oh, now wait a second.
I went, okay. And I didn't do anything.
Was he joking? Was he joking?
No.
Okay. Were you at ESPN or were you at the Ringer? Where were you? How many years ago was this?
I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, but I was with a bunch of active NFL players that are all like names.
Wow.
And we were all having a good time. It was a very good group. And it ended kind of in a sidle spot where I was like, well, I've had him on a couple of times. I could say hello. And he goes, I don't know who you are. And was like, wanted me to feel bad about myself with the way he delivered it. And I think
he might have been joking. He might have been joking.
That's what people said. And I went, okay. And I went back to the group, and one of the friends was like, what was that? And I explained it. And they were like, dude, that's not cool. And I was like, well, I'm not going to get into a fight.
Right.
I'm like, we're good. We're having a great night.
Right.
And there was somebody else that was in the group that's a needler, a real needler.
Yeah.
Call him a slot receiver. It was his favorite thing ever. He was like, that was so awesome watching that.
The way you're quoting him is entertaining, where you're saying, I don't know who you are. So it has to be joking. He's going over the top, saying it. I don't know who the hell you are and why you're even looking at me.
Exactly. It was.
So that's one of my favorite Ryen Russillo stories as well.
How would you handle that? Did that ever happen to you? Probably not, right?
There was a guy who did it, and I just laughed at him. His name was Simon Cowell. And I was at something, I was leaving a thing. I said, "Oh yeah, you should do the show. What show is that?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "I work for Letterman. Don't worry about it. I got to go. Bye bye." So I don't care.
He
But
said, "What show is that?"
he's got the biggest ego around. I mean, you're not going to out ego me, man. I mean, come on. No, I'm just kidding. But that's funny. That is so funny. Okay. Before we get to the Life Gorgeous quiz, just a couple movie things I wanted to ask you. The last time I chatted with you, you always surprise me because I know you got to watch all these games. So how much time do you have for movies? But for some reason, when I recorded with you last time, I had seen an old movie from I think the 60s called Papillon with Steve McQueen. And you said, "Oh, I saw Papillon, blah, blah, blah." And I was surprised that you were so well schooled in Papillon. So that being said, I'm going to name a couple movies that I like that are a little older. Here's one from the 70s. I want to know if you've seen it. 3 Days of the Condor, Robert Redford.
I've not seen it.
Oh,
I know I should, and
you'll love it. You'll love
I know
it.
I would. Right. There's still a list of the classics that I've not completed, Craig. Sorry.
Right. And I'm not going to go back and name like really old ones because that's in my wheelhouse. I like the
Bicycle.
Hitchcock. I like film noir. But here's some easy ones that I bet you money you've seen.
Okay.
And I enjoy them. The Harrison Ford flicks like Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games. Have you seen those?
Yeah, of course.
Those are great.
They're great movies. I was surprised how much I like Clear and Present Danger after. That's the second one, correct?
I don't know.
Games.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
Is that with Harrison Ford or somebody else?
Yeah, Harrison Ford. It's Patriot Games, then Clear and Present Danger.
Right.
I think people, get upset about the second installment. I enjoyed the second installment.
I like
on the road a little bit more. Yeah.
Little different Harrison Ford. Have you this one? I know you. The Fugitive.
Love The Fugitive.
Oh,
it's a big deal. Growing up, you hadn't seen The Fugitive. It's like, don't even go outside. And wait. I'd be like, I've been waiting for the VHS. Can you believe? And for those listening right now, not only did we have to go rent the movies and go pick out the VHS thing, VHS stores would just have one copy. No wonder Blockbuster did so well. We're like, what? Why don't we just buy more copies of the movie everybody in the town wants?
Yeah.
We're like, wait, we can't do that. They're $80.
That's hilarious. You ever seen? I've mentioned these before. In the Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood with John Malkovich. You've seen that?
In the Line of Fire is awesome.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
I like to hear that. I always mention The Firm. I watch that over and over again. You like that?
Love The Firm. Read the book.
Yeah. You know your stuff.
And these are all basic. Are you kidding? I thought I get nervous. I thought you were going to
No.
I watched Easy Rider the other night.
I saw it once, and I saw it in the house that let's see, Dennis Hopper. I bought his old house in the hills. So yeah, Easy Rider, Peter Fonda, Jack Nicholson, Dennis Hopper. And what did you think?
I saw it when I was a kid. And honestly, I don't know that my life's perspective changed my thoughts on the movie all that much, which is odd. Usually it's the other way around, Like if I watch Sideways now, as opposed to an early 20-something, I go, kind of get it. Writing's a tough gig,
Yeah.
Speaking of movies, I have a movie pitch for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Pitch? Yeah. This is just between you and I. This doesn't leave the room because we don't want anyone to steal this. Go ahead.
Okay. People are always obsessed with the future, what society will look like, right? The year is 2066, and everything's great.
So you're saying there's no dysfunction in society?
Nope. Pollution's been solved. Healthcare's great.
It almost sounds like Every Day in My Mahogany Paneled Den. Utopia.
Maybe we call it Craig's Den. And it's like, people are like, oh, is that science? Who knows?
The agile mind of Ryen Russillo. All right, here we go. We're going to go the Life Gorgeous quiz. Simple questions, profound insights.
Okay.
Ryan, how many beers have I had in the last 10 years? How many beers have I had in the last 10 years?
Beers, 10 years, 4.
I wanted to say zero, but I did have one. I was trying to bond with this guy, this businessman, and he had an Amstel Light, so I had an Amstel Light. That was 2 years ago. I've had one beer in the last 10 years. That's a key to my weight. I don't drink beer. I drink vodka and red wine in moderation.
We're putting in a Sapporo tap at the homestead.
Are you joking?
Would you have one?
I would have a sip just to, make you feel good and see how ice cold it is.
It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
As a former bartender, I got to make sure those tap lines are not only clean, sanitary, which is redundant, but also crisp.
I'm not a beer drinker. I like it. There's nothing more refreshing in the summer than an ice cold beer. I would go to the father's office and have their burger and get a Hefeweizen. They put a little lemon in there, a little Hefeweizen. But I
had Hefeweizen when I was stationed out of Stuttgart for my choir that I was part of.
Oh wow,
Heidelberg.
How old were you then? You were underage though, weren't you?
17.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was busted.
2 more things on beer. My brother drinks beer more than I do. He likes IPA. Do you like IPA? Is it too bitter for you? Yeah.
I don't like any of that. I like Coors Lights or vodka.
If I were to drink beer, I would drink a Chimay. I like the word. I like the
taste is great.
The holder, the glass that they use. The goblet. Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tasty brew, but be careful with those.
Yeah.
Doubles.
Yeah. What's your opinion, Ryen Russillo, of 20-minute naps?
I can't believe you're asking me this because I am on a 20-minute nap bender, and now I can't really even shake it. Like, it's just understood.
I thought you were saying you took a 20-minute nap. I thought you were saying you took a 20-minute nap as you were doing this podcast. So yeah, I agree with you. You say it's very refreshing. It changes your life, correct? 20-minute naps are the greatest.
Because I don't sleep a full 8 hours from, head down to, I get up, I try to attack the day, right? And so I don't laze around, and I usually take pretty early anyway. So I got to get the creative thoughts going. I've got a monologue like, hey, the San Francisco Giants, they have enough bullpen depth. I got to be up early, mapping that plan out. Haven't done that topic yet, so you can have it if you need it for the next episode. But as somebody who doesn't sleep 8 hours every night, I have this weird afternoon routine, and I have no kids, so I can kind of pull it off.
I agree with you. 20-minute naps are glorious. I take them. I enjoy them. I need them. And Byron Buxton could be your next topic, ladies and gentlemen. If you're talking about the Giants, just talk about the American League and the Minnesota Twins and Byron Buxton. How good is he? One of the greatest players currently in the MLB. By the way, side note, A-Rod is a very nice man to me, and we're pleased with Mark Laurie and A-Rod. They've injected some real juice into the franchise. He's going to do my podcast at some point. He said, whenever you need me. I was going to do it during the playoffs of the Wolves, but we'll figure it out. But one of my questions to him will be, are you willing to admit that the NBA is way more exciting than Major League Baseball? What do you think he'll say to that?
Boy. Well, considering his money's tied up in the NBA product, he's probably more likely to agree with you. It might depend on the setting. Right. It might depend also on how honest. Maybe he'll just straight up agree with you. I don't know if he'd be protective. Although he was rocking the satin Yankee jacket the other night out in public, which surprised me a little bit. I don't have a hard time believing you would wear an ESPN hoodie.
Right.
Do you have any ESPN? Do you have one piece of ESPN gear?
I used to. I don't know where any of it is. I think it's all gone now. I had a white T-shirt that said da 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 for the song da 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 Sports Center. But
the real company guy, I like that. I have the shirt that says On Air Talent, and I wore it out. Yeah, wore it out one weekend.
Okay. I have a couple food questions. I usually try to spread them out, but I like both of these. So this one I came up with yesterday, and I actually I went with my first instinct, and I forgot something. But here we go. Ryen Russillo, Doesn't have to have an order. You can order them if you want. I just
Okay.
need 3. Your top 3 sandwiches.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Top 3 sandwiches. There's actually, my top one is the one I make. All right.
Oh.
All right. So I need a baguette. I need some leafy greens, although I'm not afraid to shred up some iceberg just for texture, even though I know I'm not getting the same nutrients out of it. An heirloom tomato.
Ooh.
Yellow would be amazing, but the firmness of a green also can add to that texture. I need some kind of roast turkey. If I can't go like super high end, boar's head is the call. Maybe the maple honey glaze, sliced super thin, borderline shaved, but it's hard to find the person. And if I were cutting deli meat, I wouldn't want thin orders. I wouldn't want shaved. I'd probably lean on the thicker side just to get the reps, get it out. All right, so we're talking fresh baguette, the turkey, nice provolone, not too sharp, maybe even mild. We've talked about tomatoes. I'm not afraid to dice up some red pepper on that. Little bacon crumble. I'm not going to cook full pieces of bacon, but here's the topper of it all. I was early on this. I will douse it in Italian dressing, not balsamic vinaigrette. I hate what balsamic has done to the options for Italian salad dressing. The traditional stuff at Italian restaurants, balsamic does not taste as good as a great Italian. I will douse it in Italian dressing, let it soak into that bread a little bit. And I'm telling you right now, when I have that, it's one of my favorite things I can make and one of my favorite things I'll ever eat. Just a lot of process that goes into that.
That sounds really good. There's a place over here at the Larchmont cheese store. They make these sandwiches with the sourdough and the dressing, the Italian dressing, and the mozzarella and the tomato. But I didn't hear something, and I guess this is so you didn't say mayonnaise, and you didn't say mustard, and you didn't say red onions.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm a good listener. Okay. Okay, so that's the Russillo special, and that sounds very good. You have 2 other sandwiches.
Yeah, meatball parm. If the meatballs crumble like they do at Rayo's,
right?
The first sign of a bad meatball is the density of a golf ball. This reminds me of my past visit to the south of France. I was in Nice, little cafe, not a big deal. And I was like, I'm going to have maybe a Pilsner and a little pizza. Then I asked the guy, I said, the meatball's homemade. And when I'm diving through these little villages and walking through the alleyways, I'll look at the other plates, not in an offensive way, not in a stalkerish way, just scoping, kind of like D'Angelo Russell on a good night, right? Just kind of looking around. And I will look at the other plates. I go, this place looks good. And I ask the guy, are your meatballs homemade? Oh, yeah, no problem. They come out. We needed extra pressure on the fork to get through the whole thing. I go, these aren't homemade. You microwaved them. I can tell. Ooh. And he was like, he was like, you got me. But that's the problem is I was in Nice. I wasn't in Saint-Tropez. Saint-Tropez, they would never do that to you, as you know.
Wow. The world's so cosmopolitan. And one more sandwich, then I'm going to tell you my 3. One more sandwich for you.
I love a great steak and cheese, but I just want steak and cheese. I don't want mushrooms. I don't want onions. Am I anti-onion? I think I've provided plenty of evidence that would suggest I am.
Wow.
Now you go.
One of the joys of life are red onions. I wrote down 3 in my head yesterday, and then Princess Cherry told me her 3, and I said, I overlooked one. But here we go. Reuben. I love Reubens. Pastrami Reuben, corned beef Reuben. I like pastrami. I love the sauerkraut. I love Reubens. Do you have an opinion on Reubens, either on pumpernickel or rye?
It's not really my thing. Corned beef can be really a bad hang if it's the wrong kind. Texture, fat content. I know it's salty by design. That's fine. Good corned beef slices are terrific, but I've just experienced some stuff. I'm like, that's not a sandwich. That's garbage.
Okay. Yeah. We did definitely disagree on that. That's okay. That's what makes life exciting and interesting. My brother and I are very close. We completely disagree. He never understood George Gervin. He never understood that. He liked Elmore Smith. He liked Bill Willoughby. He likes these guys. Okay. Next sandwich, chicken salad. I love chicken salad. Tomatoes, mayonnaise, red onions. So I just love it. Do you have an opinion on chicken salad?
I love chicken salad. I used to, when I was working in minor league baseball and was making $400 every 2 weeks, I used to boil up a bunch of chicken breasts. I would like it chunky. I wouldn't like a lot of mayo. I would dice up some celery, but the key was the red grapes. Have the red
Yes.
grapes, throw it in the bucket,
Bingo.
throw it together. Right. So red grapes, a little bit of sweet, a little extra texture that throws off between the chicken.
Right.
If you over mayo your chicken salad, if it looks like it comes out of a paste tube, I'm not interested. I'm actually going to report you to the Board of Health.
Yeah, it's an art. It's an art, and you got to be careful with the mayo. And finally, tuna melt. I like tuna melts.
I think tuna is just a tough lunch call. Like, I feel like if you're a big tuna person, tuna fish sandwich person, you better be going home.
I just love. Well, tuna melts are great.
I'm not saying they taste bad.
Right.
I don't think you should have a meeting after, maybe on Zoom.
Right. So here's the one I overlooked, and I've been to gourmet restaurants and they have it. They used to have this. Republic is a restaurant over here that does very well, Walter Mansky. But prior it used to be Campanile. And on Thursday nights they had grilled cheese nights. I like grilled cheese sandwiches.
That's great.
Yeah. What do you think of grilled cheese sandwiches?
They're such a staple. College, they became a big part of the diet because it was just, they were downstairs, they were buttered to death. And you were like, this is good to go. I know the soup. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. I love hearing that. I love that you're a hot sandwich guy on top of it. You know what's ironic is that there was a place in Burlington, Vermont. Now I think it's outside of Burlington, Vermont, but it still exists. A deli called the Red Onion Deli. Oh. And their house sandwich was the red onion sandwich, which was in-store baked sourdough slices, roasted in-house turkey breast, bacon, some kind of tomato spread, and then I don't know. Give me a fancy cheese, not brie. Gruyere.
Yeah. I like saying this. I like saying Havarti, but I don't really eat Havarti. But I just like saying Havarti.
Yeah, I don't know because I think I was even screwing up that cheese. And they press it, and it comes out, and it's hot. And by the way, because it's called the red onion sandwich, plenty of red onion for you if you want.
Wow. Red onions are magical. You can go overboard with them, and then you got to go home, like you said. No meetings after that. That was very, very good. We have two more.
You have two more sandwiches? Oh,
no,
okay.
I have two more.
2 more questions.
2 more questions.
All right. There's a game tonight.
I know. I'm almost done. Sorry. Chocolate or vanilla shake? I've been asking people this the last few weeks. Chocolate or vanilla shake?
Chocolate.
Wow. Oh,
I know.
My God.
I know. It's blessed. I know you're a vanilla guy. I already knew.
My friend Mike Gibbons said, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say vanilla. You probably think chocolate is barbaric. It's overpowering. It's overpowering. And vanilla has the nuances like my game as I labyrinth and do the maze as D'Lo comes down the lane back and forth, slalom, and finds that little left-handed J.
Snake dribble. Yeah. Little texture in there. Different notes. Almost like a Byredo unisex cologne.
Okay, so you like chocolate. That's fine. A lot of people do. It's fine. It's the common man in you. Those of us who enjoy France.
I'm a Barkley guy. A Barkley guy.
Yeah.
Of course I was going to pick chocolate. Not about race, about power.
Right. And I liked Rick Barry. So, final question. This is the shirtless one. I want you to consider this. So I want you to know if this is a possibility. It's not for me, it's for your Christmas card or your holiday card. This is the one you send to all your friends. There's a picture of you. This is a picture. And the picture is Craig Kilborn on your balcony in a vest and an ascot, nice dress shirt. And you are there in the picture, shirtless, serving me a martini. So I have a professional photographer that will come down. Will you consider your holiday card being me sitting on your balcony and you shirtless serving me a martini. Happy holidays, everyone.
I've wanted to do a weird holiday card for a little while because I don't have the immediate family, but I don't know I want to do one that will propose so many questions.
It's a risk, man.
I like it. I might do it. I just think there's going to be a lot of follow-ups.
It's just a joke. That's all.
I know the joke. I get the joke, but you're like, how much did you like this guy? He was only on for 3 years. The Arvidas line wasn't that good.
Oh, I just think I would laugh so hard. I'm
not against it. But
you'll consider it. Okay.
Oh, yes. It's under consideration.
So, you know who can take the picture? Nashi. I'll come down this summer. Nashi's in the neighborhood.
Perfect.
And he'll take the picture. Oh,
and then never return my call again.
He's going to pull an Aaron Rodgers on you. Always a joy, sir, to catch up.
It's always a huge, huge privilege. My buddies think it's the coolest thing ever that, the college roommates to know that I get to come on and hang out with somebody like you. That was you. Now I'm taking too long on this outro, but you get the point. Thanks as always, buddy.
Thank you. That's Ryen Russillo. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. We will see you next time. And remember, young people, I'm proud of you.